Hello, it's Kristen from the Together Act. Happy New Year. It's been a while since I was on this side of the camera, so I might be a little rusty today. Thank you for your patience with me. I am coming to you today with a video about my new office space. I mentioned a couple of posts ago on my blog that one of my goals for 2017 for early in the year was to create an office space for myself. So first of all, if you know about me from reading my posts and watching my videos, I'm a pretty bad goal setter, or always have been a pretty bad goal setter. Last year I actually set some goals, kind of loose random goals, and I did a pretty good job of achieving them, much to my surprise. And so this year I have a little more intention with regards to setting my sights on what I'd like to accomplish and then taking the steps to accomplish that. So the office space situation. I created a really pretty simple office space up in our living room, and then realized that as lovely as it looks and as functional as it is in some ways, the Wi-Fi reception is dreadful. I get basically no Wi-Fi reception where I am. We're not sure if it's because I'm on the other side of a large fireplace. I don't know, but it's terrible. So I had been using our dining room table, which, as any of you know who use your dining room table as your office, it's not the most convenient when you have a family. So I have a family of 5, and they like to eat and they like to use the dining room table for meals. And so it was really inconvenient, and I always had my mess sort of pushed down at one end of the table, and I was always promising I would clean it up before it was time for dinner, and it wasn't functional, wasn't efficient. So I made a promise to myself and to my family that by January 1st I would figure something else out. And then I didn't really make a plan, and I didn't really try to come up with a solution. I just figured I would use the dining room table, and then at the end of the day I would quickly collect all of my things and move them over to the office space in the living room, so that it looked like I had worked there all day, but I had really been working at the dining room table. Then it was Christmas, and I love to wrap gifts. So for the last several years I have had the gifts in my closet in our bedroom, and then I pull them out into the bedroom, lock the door, and begin to wrap, only to be interrupted by one thing or another and need to shove everything back into the closet and do the same thing over and over again for several days until the gifts were finally all wrapped. This year I decided, in order to bring more joy to the process and the experience of wrapping gifts, because I really love to do it, I was going to come up with a better solution. I decided that I would set up a 6-foot folding table in the storage area of our basement, and I would wrap presents down there. This area is warm and it's insulated and it has good lighting and it's quiet, and so I thought this would be the perfect spot for me to just set up my gift wrap station. I can diligently work through it when I have time, and I will get it all done and I won't have to keep putting it all away. My kids are old enough that I knew they wouldn't come in and bother the gifts or snoop around, so it seemed like the perfect solution. And it was. I spent several afternoons wrapping gifts, and while I wrapped, I tuned into the 10-week series on, now it's available on YouTube, of Oprah Winfrey and Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth. And so it was a 10-week series following the 10 chapters in the book, and I tuned in every day that I wrapped presents and really looked forward to coming down to my little space to spend time with the two of them, talking about being more present and wrapping my presents. So it was a really positive experience, and to be honest, when I was finished wrapping presents, I actually kind of missed the process. And thus I decided, if I was going to create an office space, why wouldn't I put it in the storage area of our basement? That's where I'm sitting today, and I will give you a little tour. The only thing I bought to create this space were some dowels and some hooks and some zip ties to hang the sheets that are behind me. I had 1 or 2 of the sheets, so I had to buy 2 flat sheets to use as the curtains, and miraculously in doing so I covered up all the boxes that are hiding behind the sheets, so it makes it a pretty peaceful space. So I had a lot to rearrange, though we didn't have a whole lot of stuff down here. We had Christmas storage and out of season clothing storage, and some other things that I haven't successfully KonMari'd completely out of my life. So we had a snow day a couple weeks ago, and my boys were kind enough for a small amount of pay to help me pull everything out of the storage space and rearrange the shelves so that I could make an area that could become a writing nook. The one thing that is kind of a cool little addition to this office is a folding screen that is 15 picture frames. So it's 5 frames 3 times, and I dropped off a bunch of things at Salvation Army recently. And when I was dropping it off, there were other people's piles of things out back, and it was snowing. And as I unloaded my stuff, I was looking at this screen, and the gentleman who worked there thought it was mine to donate. And I said, no, I'm actually considering this. It was sitting over there. It was kind of covered in snow. I said, do you have a price on it? He kind of looked at me and smiled and slid it in the back of my car and said, let's figure it's a trade. So I have this fabulous frame that is now sort of my vision board, and a screen that keeps me from having to look at the water heater. So it was sort of a win-win. So that's really the only kind of new item that's in this space, but it was rather serendipitous, and I enjoy looking at it every day. Hello, it's Kristen from the Together Act. So I am going to give you a tour of my newly created writing space. And I've been asked to give a little more information instead of just a kind of visual tour. I've been asked to commentate a little bit by a few people. So I am going to do that. I'll give you just a little more information. It's a pretty simple space, and I didn't do a whole lot, but I will give you a little bit of background info on what's in there and how I created it. All right, let's go. Welcome to my space. So first of all, we've just walked into the basement storage area, which is where this office writing space is located. I wanted to tell you that while I have hung curtains to make the space prettier, everything is still accessible behind those curtains. And it is still an unfinished basement. So this situation right here is a hutch that usually goes in our dining room, but at this house there is not enough space for it. And so it's filled with the large platters that we use sometimes, and it also has school supplies in it that my kids need. So we keep that down here. It's just covered up on top of the moving blanket so it doesn't get all scratched. Back here under the stairs are basic storage items. So some guitar cases, some paint left by the landlord, all of our suitcases, a box fan, and moving boxes. Since we are renting this space, we know that we will be needing those, and we wanted to just hang on to them because they're still in good shape. Then on this side, this is behind the air conditioner and heater and hot water heater. And on this side also there are some boxes for moving, and then some items that are on their way out, and I just haven't carried those upstairs yet. And then on this little nightstand, which we use when we have guests come, we move it out into my son's room to give a little extra drawer space, is my new torture device, TRX, that my husband gave me for Christmas. So when you first walk in, this is what is seen. I've used the back wall of this space, and I've really kind of taken over. And I'm kind of happy about it. So I hung these paper lanterns from the ceiling. I purchased those at IKEA a while ago and wasn't using them for anything. They are not really designed to go over bare bulbs, which is why I do not have them hung over the bare bulbs down here. I didn't want to create any sort of a fire hazard. So I hung them up more just for some interest. They're not really functional lights. Over here are the curtains that I hung, which are really just sheets. So on 3 of these sheets, I just opened the casing at the top and slid the dowel through. And then on one, I did sew a casing because the sheet didn't have what I needed to hang the dowel up there. So I will link below the website where I found this information to give credit where credit's due. They are just dowels from Home Depot. They were about $2 a foot, I believe. And then a screw right into the beam and a zip tie. I used a little bit of duct tape, you can see there, because I bought remnant dowels and they weren't quite long enough for my space. If I were to do it again, I would have measured and cut them a little bit longer, but these were pre-cut leftovers, and so I just used them and made them work, but taped them so they don't come down on my head if I need to get behind there. So I've just done the same thing all the way across. And so then behind these curtains, easily accessible, are just some storage bins, kids' treasure boxes and such that I can easily access, as well as the main water shutoff and water meter and that sort of thing. So pretty organized and nicely tucked away back there, so I don't have to look at it. I just have the clean white sheet. I dug up some of my kids' artwork that I had always intended. Now, my children are teenagers, so this artwork is from elementary school and maybe early middle school. I had intended to frame it, but didn't, and then as I was creating this space, I found it and thought I'm going to use it in here. You'll notice some things from my patio makeover over the summer. I didn't want to leave those vases and that little round statue thing outside in the weather, so I brought them inside. This shelf folds, and so I didn't feel the need to get rid of it because it folds real flat, but I'm glad I kept it, even though we're not using it in our house, because I'm loving it down here. I also moved my meditation space from my bedroom closet down into this space. I do still have a cushion upstairs that I can use when I'm up there, but this way I can have that space down here also. And then I have this lovely oil painting ocean scene. This was from Salvation Army. It was $1.74 on sale, half off from $3 and change. And I just hung it with some string. I poked holes through the canvas and hung it with some string and a staple gun. The walls behind this plastic padding that's over the insulation are cinder block or concrete, and so I can't really get into them, and the insulation is so thick that I couldn't really get a nail through there anyway. So I just either hung things from the beams or taped them, as I did with my kids' artwork. And then I have a lamp that we had from an old house. I think I saved it because it's navy blue. I'm glad I did. A couple little trinkets, again, that we already had, and a table that I found on the side of the road probably over the summer. My kids make fun of me for things I squirrel away from the side of the road, but I'm glad I took that one because I like it. And then here is my super fabulous screen that I mentioned earlier in the video. This was my gift from the kind gentleman at Salvation Army. I used it as a bit of a vision board. It does have panes of glass. It's really heavy. So it took me a while to get it filled, but I just printed out quotes on paper or cut things out, used some pictures that I already had, and filled each of the 15 squares. This message over here was the message handwritten on the mirror in my bathroom by my husband on New Year's Day. So I decided to turn it into one of the squares here in this little vision board situation. So the screen in general is a little 90s, but I think down here it works because it hides the water heater from my view when I'm sitting at my desk, and it gives me a little bit of inspiration. So then over here, I have the same curtain situation hung up on dowels, just right from the ceiling, and easy access behind there, storage space with my sewing machine and some Christmas decor and that sort of thing. The floors are concrete, and so I just used some rugs. There was a piece of rug left over from the renovation of my son's bedroom. His room is right outside the door of this space. So then I just used some throw rugs that we already had and were not using, but didn't want to get rid of. This chair was in my son's room. The pillow I swiped from the couch because the kids didn't really need it. And then so over here is my desk. It is a folding table from Home Depot. And we purchased that when we first moved in before the moving truck got here with our furniture, so we had somewhere to eat. We have 6 of these chairs. We use them when we have extra folks at our dinner table, but we don't often, so I have that left over. Little antique potty that was my grandparents'. And then here's my desk. Pretty simple. Laptop. I have an addiction to calendars, though I do not write anything on paper calendars anymore. I only use my Google Calendar and my Google Calendar app. I do love a paper calendar, and because this table is a little bumpy, this calendar gives me a nice surface to write if I'm writing on paper. And then some pens and pencils and post-it notes on my portable speaker, and then a bin full of some things to do, and another calendar because I do have a calendar problem. This one, I must confess, I bought because I really love the clipboard, and the calendar just came with it. So, and then my gratitude journal. So that's it, and there is back out the door. This space is making me really happy. I'm very glad that I took the time to create a nook for myself. It's peaceful and it's inspiring, and it's really kind of fun to be down here. I try not to let my family know how much I love being in this space, but I think they can tell because they're always looking for me down here. Thank you so much for coming along on the tour of my new writing space. It's time for me to get back to work. Sometimes I really love the act of creating a space, but then I'm not so good at using that space for what I intended. So I'm going to get back to work now. I have plenty to do down here. I hope this video has inspired you to look around the space that you have, and if you're needing a nook for yourself, that you find an area that will work and you set about creating it. It doesn't have to be expensive, and it doesn't have to be a long project, but a little private space where you can work or write or read or meditate or create is really a valuable thing, especially heading into a brand new year. Thank you for watching, and good luck with whatever your space is going to be.